The night was unusually quiet. Sophia, a freelance journalist, had driven deep into the countryside to chase a local legend, the Whispering Fog. She wasn't one for ghost stories, but she couldn't resist the allure of a scoop no one else dared to write about. Locals warned her, "The fog doesn't just drift. It follows you. It whispers your secrets." Brushing off the superstitions as small-town hysteria, Sophia parked near the edge of the forest where the phenomenon was said to occur. Her car was the only sign of life for miles. With her flashlight and recorder in hand, she ventured into the woods. The air felt different here, heavier, colder. Leaves crackled underfoot as she tread cautiously along a worn path. Minutes passed, then an hour. The trees seemed to close in, their crooked branches tangling together like skeletal fingers. Yet no fog appeared. Disappointed, Sophia muttered, "Another dead-end story." Just as she turned to head back, a low hum filled the air. It wasn't the sound of wind. It was rhythmic, almost like a chant. The hairs on her neck stood up as the mist began to creep in, curling around her ankles. She flicked her flashlight toward it. The beam was swallowed by the pale grey shroud. Then it began. At first she thought it was the wind whistling through the trees, but the sound grew sharper, distinct. It was a voice, no, many voices, faint, whispering her name. Sophia. Her breath hitched. It had to be a trick of the mind, she thought. Maybe she'd been awake too long. But then the voices shifted. They spoke things no one else could know. "Why did you lie to Emily about that job offer?" Sophia froze. Her best friend Emily had moved away years ago because of that lie. She had no way of knowing anyone could possibly uncover it. "You knew it would hurt her." "Who's there?" Sophia shouted, spinning in circles. Her flashlight sputtered as the fog thickened, encasing her in a suffocating cocoon. The whispers escalated, recounting every secret she had buried, every betrayal, every moment of selfishness she had hidden even from herself. Tears pricked her eyes as shame and terror engulfed her. She stumbled backward, heart hammering in her chest. And then, silence. The fog receded slightly, revealing a figure standing just a few feet away. A woman, her face obscured by the mist, dressed in a gown that shimmered like wet stone under moonlight. Sophia gasped. "Who are you?" The woman tilted her head. When she spoke, her voice was an amalgamation of the whispers, layered and eerie. "I am the mirror. I am the truth. You've come seeking a story, but the story is you." The fog surged forward, and Sophia screamed as it plunged into her chest. Every memory, every misdeed she'd tried to suppress played before her eyes like a twisted film. She couldn't move, couldn't breathe. When the mist cleared, she was gone. Only her recorder lay on the forest floor, its red light blinking. Weeks later, a hiker stumbled across Sophia's abandoned car. Her recorder was found in the woods, the last audio captured haunting in its clarity. You cannot escape what you hide. The fog knows, and it will find you next. In a small town, there was an old legend about a cursed well. They said that on a full moon, if you stared into the water too long, something would stare back at you. Emma had heard the story growing up but never believed it. One night her friends dared her to prove it wasn't real. Laughing nervously, she agreed and headed to the edge of the woods where the well sat, abandoned and overgrown. Under the pale moonlight, Emma leaned over the well and looked into the water. At first, all she saw was her own reflection rippling in the dark. But then it changed. Her face twisted, warped into something horrifying, empty eyes, a stretched, sinister smile. Heart racing, Emma backed away. That's when she heard it. A whisper rising from the depths. "Don't go. You're watching so I can come out." She froze in terror as something began climbing out of the well. A hand, slick with mud, then a shoulder, a face. It was her, but not her. pale, lifeless, and grinning. Emma turned and ran all the way home. Slamming the door, she locked herself inside, trying to calm her racing heart. But when she looked in the mirror, her reflection wasn't hers anymore. It grinned back, the same hollow, chilling smile she'd seen in the well. By morning, Emma was gone. Her friends only whispered about the strange voices coming from the well, and the two faces that could now be seen in the water. Chris was in the middle of moving into his new apartment when he first noticed something strange. The layout of the place felt off. It was an old building, one of those pre-war brownstones with high ceilings and creaky floorboards. He chalked up the odd feeling to poor design and focused on unpacking. It was late when he finally sat down on the worn couch he'd lugged up 3 flights of stairs. As he glanced around, he couldn't shake the sensation that something was missing, like there was supposed to be more to the apartment, but every wall, every corner checked out, nothing unusual. Until that night. Chris woke up around 3 a.m. to a faint sound like scratching. He froze, his ears straining in the darkness. It was coming from the far side of his bedroom, where his dresser stood against the wall. He switched on his bedside lamp and stared, but the room was silent now. Old building noises, he muttered to himself. Still, he moved the dresser the next morning, just in case there was a rodent problem. Behind it, the wallpaper was different, a faded floral pattern that didn't match the rest of the room. And when he knocked on the wall, it sounded hollow. A shiver ran down his spine, but curiosity got the better of him. He fetched a hammer and pried at the seam. The thin layer of drywall gave way, revealing a door that didn't appear on the apartment's floor plan. Chris hesitated, but his hand moved to the rusted knob as if drawn by some unseen force. The door creaked open, revealing a narrow staircase descending into darkness. The air smelled stale, like damp earth and something faintly metallic. "Hello?" he called out, his voice barely more than a whisper. No answer. Gripping his phone for light, Chris stepped inside. The stairs seemed endless, spiraling down far deeper than the building should allow. Finally, he reached the bottom, where a single wooden chair sat in the center of the small room. On the chair was an old reel-to-reel tape recorder. The tape was already running. "Chris," a voice whispered. He stumbled back. The voice was unmistakably his own. "What the?" The recording continued. "Why did you come here? You shouldn't have opened the door. Now it knows you're here." The lights on his phone flickered. Panic surged as the door at the top of the stairs slammed shut with a deafening bang. The recording stopped. Then the whispers began, soft at first, but growing louder, as if a crowd surrounded him. He spun around, his phone's light darting across the walls. Shadows moved, but there was nothing to cast them. The whispers crescendoed into a roar. Something grabbed his arm, pulling him toward the chair. Chris screamed, struggling, but he couldn't break free. When he woke up, he was back in his bed. The door was gone. The dresser was back in its place as if nothing had happened. Except for one thing. On the floor beside his bed was the reel from the recorder, unwound and tangled. A single word was scratched into the wooden floor beneath it. "Stay."
If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you want more spine-chilling tales, make sure to hit subscribe and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any updates. Thanks for watching, and remember, some mysteries are better left unsolved.